Sabbath is about resisting coercion. It's about leveling the playing field and making space to enjoy life. But how do we practically do that? What does that actually mean? Well, here's a helpful filter from Walter Brueggemann that I read this week. So get your cell phones out and take a picture of this, because you're going to need it for later when you're working through your Sabbath practice, okay? This is what it is. I do not have to do more, nor do I expect anybody else to do more. I do not have to sell more, nor do I expect anyone else to sell more. I do not have to control more. I do not have to know more. I do not have to have my kids in more things. I do not have to be younger or more beautiful. And I do not have to accumulate more. So on Sabbath, we create a new rhythm for this day, our Sabbath day, that takes the expectations that we normally live by and actively resists them by setting up our day in such a way that we resist the coercion that comes from the expectations we often live by every other day of the week. So let's explore what a few of these might mean, like tangibly in our lives. So number one, I do not have to do more. So on Sabbath, we resist doing things that are on our to-do list. This might mean that our work is unfinished, that we did not check everything off the list when our Sabbath started. It might mean that our phone is sitting right there and we know there are emails to answer. It might be that we can see the baseboard that we need to fix, or we might be able to look out the window and see the yard work we need to do, but we leave it. Because on Sabbath, we resist the expectations that we put on ourselves to have all of the things checked off the to-do list. And this is because we want to actually experience the reality that God loves us no matter what we can and cannot do or do not do. In fact, we will never be done all of the things on our to-do list. There is always going to be more. And so for one day, we rest in the love of God, who does not demand more of us, but just wants to be with us. So I do not have to do more on Sabbath. I do not have to sell more on Sabbath or expect anybody else to sell more. So when we practice Sabbath, one of the reasons that we resist shopping on that day is because it's actually a justice issue. We want to level the playing field for everyone. It's a statement that we make with our lives that everyone needs a day off, no matter their socioeconomic status. And we know who usually doesn't have time and space to take a day off, right? It's the most vulnerable in our world and society. For instance, this week, I was chatting with my home church about this, and one of my home church members said that they either do keep McDonald's open on Christmas Day, or they're planning to. I don't know if you guys know which is true. But do you think the CEO is the one that is working at McDonald's on Christmas Day? I don't think so. I think it's the newcomer. I think it's the single parent, or it's the kid who's trying to save money for school. It's the person who doesn't have money and doesn't have another option, so they take that shift. So who can stand up for the people who don't have the bandwidth to say, we will not work at McDonald's on Christmas Day? It's those of us who believe that this is a justice issue. It's those of us who can afford to take a day off and maybe refuse to go to McDonald's on one day of the year. And if we did that on one day of the week, maybe we would find that justice starts to happen for other people too. So Sabbath is a statement that there is something more important than the bottom line, and it's people. Everyone is valuable because they are created by God. And Sabbath levels the playing field for one day of the week because it recognizes the limitless value of each human being just because they were created by God. I do not have to control more. This might be a good one for parents out there, although all of us can learn from this one. So when I was growing up, and I've talked to a few people this week who have said the same, Sabbath was so boring. It was so boring. We had to go to church twice, and we always missed the end of The Wonderful World of Disney, and we never got to watch Fraggle Rock, and we did not have a VHS to tape anything. You guys probably don't even know what a VHS is, right? Now, this isn't a slight on my parents because it actually was the church culture of how we practice Sabbath. It felt like Sabbath was set up as a day for other expectations. Like it might have been a break from the expectations we had every day of the week, but there were just other expectations that we had to meet. And I'm sure some adults hated it too. So what if instead of setting Sabbath up to institute a routine that is about expectations that come from somewhere else, as parents, we set up at least part of that day around our kids. We let go of control and expectations, no matter where they come from. We played Lego. We let them stay in their PJs. We went outside. If they have a nap at 1 o'clock, we laid down and had a nap and didn't fold the laundry or do the dishes while they napped, and just resisted the urge to control the day, went with the flow and just stayed present. I think that being with kids is actually one of the best ways to actually experience that we are loved and that we love simply because we exist, not because we can accomplish anything. Now, we haven't gone through all the statements, but you can take them with you this week and maybe think about how you could filter your Sabbath practices through these statements. But one final tip I want to give you on how to resist coercion is that you should use your Sabbath day to practice delight. To delight in relationships, to delight in the ordinary, to delight in having time to just be with where you are without worrying about where you have to be. Hang out with the people you love hanging out with. Do things you love to do or that your family loves to do. Eat food you love. Enjoy nature and quiet and coffee and just take your time enjoying it. To delight in these things means to do these things in God's presence, recognizing that they are all a gift from Him and that we got them for free because God loves us. To delight in the good gifts that God gives us is worship. And worship is the best antidote to coercion. One final note. It can really feel uncomfortable when we first start to practice this resistance because we can stop doing what is expected of us, but still feel those expectations in our bodies or in our minds or our hearts. So it could be that we've stopped our bodies, but we still feel the pull of these expectations. And as a result, maybe we're not really resting. And I think this is because we live at such a fast-paced life with so many expectations during the week that sometimes it takes a little while for all of us to catch up to our bodies. Or sometimes our minds and our hearts are going so fast that it's kind of like doing a bungee jump, like they just fly right by us when we stop, right? But if we sit there long enough, it's all gonna eventually come to rest. It's all going to be okay. So if you're feeling a little uncomfortable as you start to practice Sabbath, it doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. In fact, it might be you're doing it really right. Just give it time and you will learn how to rest. Remember, we don't get fit by believing exercise helps us, but by actually exercising. So figure out a way to start practicing Sabbath. Just do it. Because the spiritual rhythms might be everyday, unspectacular habits, but they are also the ways that we participate in the grand vision that God has to renew all of creation.